What is up, guys, and welcome into another episode of the Ain't It Funky podcast. My guest today is Dylan Dekker. Dylan is a drummer based out of New York City who has been making serious waves on social media with his undeniable chops behind the kit. Dylan works full-time for Google's in-house marketing agency and plays drums regularly in church. He recently got a touring gig with the band The Spill Canvas, though this episode was recorded before he got the gig, but big shout out to Dylan for killing it out there on the road. In this episode, we talked about Dylan's rise on social media, his time living in Nashville pursuing music, how he develops his creativity behind the kit, balancing his day job with his drumming, and more. If you enjoy this episode, please subscribe wherever you're listening. The video version is available on YouTube as well. Thanks for tuning in, and enjoy. All right, Dylan Dekker, welcome into the podcast.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Glad to be here.
So Dylan, how did you get started playing drums, or how did you get started in music?
Yeah, so it's kind of an interesting story. I think a lot of people see a drummer or see a band and are inspired to play from that, and my story is a lot the same. So I grew up watching like a lot of comedy movies with my parents, and we watched School of Rock together with Jack Black.
Hell yeah.
And when I saw the little kid that played drums at the end, his name is Freddie. When I saw Freddie playing the drums in the concert at the end of the movie, I was like, I have to be a drummer. That's the coolest thing I've ever seen.
Hell
So
yeah.
that was like when the seed was planted. And then my mom told me that I needed to take piano lessons first. So she was like, do a year of piano. I think she wanted to have me like establish a little bit of like a musical baseline. I think it's easy to like jump right into drums and just hit everything really fast. So she wanted me to have a little bit of the musicality. So took piano for a few years, and then when I was, I think, 12 or 13, they bought me my first drum kit. Yeah.
Oh, sweet. And so then what kind of stuff did you start playing along to? Who were your kind of first drum heroes?
So both of my parents were really into metal music, believe it or not. So my dad loves Metallica, so I listened to a lot of Metallica. My mom loved Van Halen, so there was a
Nice.
lot of Van Halen playing. So I got to hear, I mean, a lot of the fast and loud kind of metal drumming. And then as I moved into high school, I was on the drum line at my local high school, and a lot of those guys were very heavy into Avenged Sevenfold. So I would just play along with all of Avenged Sevenfold's records, and then Periphery is another really big one. Matt Halpern is their drummer, and has always been a huge inspiration to me. So yeah, that's kind of who I listen to.
Oh, amazing. And then, because you obviously you play in church
Mhm.
a lot. When did you start playing drums in church?
I started playing with the youth band, so I think, right, you're like 11 or 12 when you go into middle school. So just my local church had a very small youth group, and I started playing in the band there. And then through high school, I played in the band with them, and then we started going. So I'm in New York now. I'm originally from North Carolina. And down in the South, as I'm sure people are aware, there's a lot of like mega churches that have like phenomenal bands. So I was able to play with some relatively talented musicians, which was a lot of fun. And that was really good for my musicality and my musical ability to have them push me. So I played all the way through middle school, through high school, and then my wife and I recently moved to New York to be a part of a relatively new church plant here, and they did not have a drummer before we moved, so that was just a way that I could help them out. So we're part of that church, and I play drums almost every weekend.
Sweet. So how often is that?
Almost every weekend, so just about every Sunday. I get a couple
Oh, okay.
weeks off every now and then just to take a break, but it's almost every weekend, yeah.
All right. And you told me briefly what your day job was before we started recording. So tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so when I was fresh, so I didn't finish college. I did a couple years of college, so I have a few credits, but not very many. When I was fresh out of that, when I decided I didn't want to do that anymore, I was working at a scrapyard, if you want to call it that, in North Carolina. We were just consolidating parts to Audi cars, and then we resold them. And I met my now wife and decided that I wanted to get married, so I needed to grow up a little bit and get a real job. So I kind of just found my way into the marketing world and started at a small firm in North Carolina doing marketing for automotive dealerships. And then that led, when we were moving, I was looking for a new job, obviously. That led to me working for the company that I work for now, who is kind of like Google's in-house marketing agency. So there's a bunch of different teams, but the team that I work on is primarily with Google Chrome and Google Play and the iOS Google app, and I do their social campaigns. So I'm not really doing any of the creative side. I'm not making videos or images or anything like that. It's my job to just get everything uploaded, make sure that it's spending the correct amount of money. It's a lot of reporting, a lot of data analyzation. So that's kind of what I do day to day.
Okay. And how are you? Is that Monday to Friday?
Yeah, just a
Okay.
9 to 5. Yeah.
Right. And how are you like? How do you balance that with kind of still getting to practice drums? I know that one of your reels that I saw the other day, um, you were obviously trying to tackle having a 9 to 5 and
Yeah.
still getting to practice. Do you find you still find plenty of time to kind of drum, and how do you structure that time?
Yeah. So being in New York, as I'm sure you can imagine, we all live in these little tiny apartments. So there's not really room for a practice room or anything like that. So the drum kit that I play in all of my videos is my drum kit, and it is at the church. We're very fortunate. We live just a few blocks away from the church, so I'm able to walk over there a lot. But I go Monday nights. They have like a volleyball league that plays at our church. So during that time, I go and practice maybe for a couple hours. And then Fridays are a little bit lighter at work. So I, a lot of times, will work from the church and just kind of play off and on throughout the day. And then Saturdays are my other big day that I'm able to go practice. It's definitely, drumming for me is a hobby for sure. It's not like I'm not making any money doing it. Honestly, I'm not going on tours. I've had offers to do studio stuff and to do a tour now, but I just am at a place in life where I'm working 9 to 5, and drums are just kind of a hobby. It's super cool that people resonate with that, though. I think I've definitely found a niche audience on Instagram of people who are working, who play for fun, who don't necessarily have access to all of the microphones or the lighting or the studio space or whatever it may be, that these amazing drummers are able to produce these movie level quality drum videos. So I think
Mm,
I'm resonating with them because we just kind of do things as we have time and for fun. Yeah.
right. And because I know you started posting, I saw back in July of 2019.
Yeah.
And so, what was sort of the point where you kind of started to blow up on social media, where you realized, oh, wow,
Yeah.
there's like all these followers and views coming in?
It happened literally overnight. So there was the video. It feels so weird to talk about this. There's a video on my page that is just a cover of a Tears for Fears song. I think it's called Everybody Wants to Rule the World. And a couple years ago, there was a trend going around where you just kind of modulate where the drum beat is and it's displaced a little bit and it sounds super funky. People were doing that for months. And then I was several years late to that challenge, but I wanted to just give it a go anyway. So that is the video I think I posted on maybe like mid-November of 2023. And it did, I was at that point getting maybe 1,000, 2,000 views on each of the videos that I posted. And I was at a holiday dinner with TikTok for work. So I was like
Mm,
just out to dinner, and my phone just started like blowing up in my pocket. It was the weird, I never had anything like that happen before. My phone was just vibrating and there were comments and likes, and I was like looking at it at first, and then it started to make my phone lag, and I was like, what is going on? So that was that one video was the turning point that I think gave me like 20 something thousand
wow.
followers. It was not, it's so I feel like a lot of people have like gradual growth, and now obviously things have scaled and I'm just growing like gradually. But it's weird. Social media is weird how one little thing can just like launch you into this new position. And it was, I mean, it's been a lot of fun, but it was, yeah, unexpected to say the least. It was completely random.
Wow, man. Yeah, that's social media really is bizarre how people can just, like look at like Domino Sant'Antonio, right?
Hmm.
She, I mean, obviously she was a gigging drummer before TikTok, but then when she started posting during the lockdowns, she just like blew up really
Yeah,
quickly, and now she's like everywhere. Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Drumeo, of course.
yeah,
So it,
man,
it,
I
it is,
love Dromeo.
yeah, man, it is bizarre how yeah people do just kind of one video can do that. That's
Yeah,
amazing. Yeah, incredible.
yeah,
And do you because you said you've been messaged obviously through your social media gaining that much traction. You said you've been messaged about like sessions and stuff.
hmm.
But is it kind of something that at some point you could see yourself maybe doing music related stuff as a side hustle, or you just definitely feel like no, I'm happy and content with my 9 to 5 and drumming as a hobby?
I mean, so I, sorry, this might be a very long answer to that question. I dropped out of college in 2015 and decided that I was going to move to Nashville and be like a full-time drummer. So I lived in Nashville for 2 years trying to do that, trying to make, making money with drumming work. And that is when I kind of decided this is a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. So I'm going to like scale it back. Now, fast forward to today, um, I have said yes to one studio gig that's going to kind of take place over the span of a couple weeks at the end of January, which honestly is now. So it's coming up next week. As far as touring, I will probably continue to say no to that. Unfortunately, I think that that time in my life is just past. Unfortunately, I feel like I have responsibilities that are more important to me to take care of. Like providing is like kind of, the first thing that I'm supposed to take care of. So the studio stuff, I can definitely see myself doing. I'm looking to get, so right now I'm just recording with my phone and a Yamaha EAD-10, which all of the social media drummers do. I'm looking to get like an interface so that I can use the mics that the church has to like record good drum sound. So at that point, I might do some um, like remote session work because I get a lot of questions about that, and I do hate having to tell people no because that kind of thing you can knock out relatively quickly.
Mm.
And of course, if people do decide to, give some money, that's always great, but they don't have to. It's just fun playing drums. So I think I will try to get set up for that over the coming months a little bit. Um, but yeah, that's a very long way of saying touring, probably not. If some huge artist was to ask me, we might have to reconsider. But session stuff is probably going to be a case by case basis for sure.
Sweet, man. And so, yeah, tell me about your time in Nashville. I'm very curious.
Yeah. Um, let's see. So I was born in 96. So that means I was what, like 19, 20 years old when I moved to Nashville in 2015. So had been to college for 1 year, um, and decided that I wanted to be a full-time musician. So I, t- I told my parents in December of, I guess, December of 2018 that I was moving to Nashville ASAP. And they were like, we're not just going to let you like go off on your own and like get screwed. Like, we're going to try to help you, which was great. I'm forever thankful for that. So we loaded up the car January of 2019 and drove to Nashville, and they helped me find a place, which is super great. I started off living in a house with just a bunch of guys that I had never met who were also just trying to be musicians in the area. I was working at a restaurant called Firebirds, which big shout out to Firebirds. That place literally carried me through high school, through college, through Nashville, and then even when I was back home working at different locations as a server. But yeah, I spent all of my time working as a server. The cost of living in Nashville is relatively low, so I didn't have to work like all the time. So I was able to do the whole going out to Broadway, which is, the main strip where all of the bars are, where you run into all of the country artists and stuff. So I would go out there, see if I could like make up conversation with the drummer that was playing that night, just try to network, try to be seen by posting on social media. Um, and it never happened for me. honestly, I was able to play at a couple bars. I played some small shows, um, but it just was not, it was not sustainable for me. So after probably about a year, which is not that long, and it does take more time than that. Now that I'm like older, I recognize that that's not very long. But I was just exhausted and I wanted to come home. And my parents were like, before you do that, let's just look on Craigslist to see if we can find like any bands in the area that are looking for drummers. So I was able to find a band, and the band's name was the Delta Troubadours. They played very kind of Kings of Leon. I don't know if you've heard of Kings of Leon. It's like that
Yeah.
style of like rock and roll.
Right.
That was their style. They wrote their own music. They were looking for a drummer, so I went through the audition process with them and got the gig, which was great. We toured for a few months up and down the East Coast, primarily in the Southeast United States, playing a lot of college like frat shows. It was during football season, so lots of frat shows at that time, um, and did that for a little while. But as we were doing that, I kind of noticed that when we weren't making any money, they were not like concerned about that. And as we like talked about like, why are you guys not nervous about the fact that we're like losing money doing this tour? It was because they all had degrees from college. So they like were set up. If this music thing doesn't work out, we're set up. I just like go get a job and call it a day. And I did not have one. So that made me really nervous. And after touring with them for a few months, maybe close to a year, that's when I decided to not give up, but kind of give up, just pack it in and move back home to North Carolina. And at that time, I was like very heavy set on like, I'm going to finish my degree so that I can have a fallback plan. Um, Obviously, that didn't end up happening, but yeah,
Right. And
that's the
so,
Nashville story.
okay. And so yeah, because you said you went to like Broadway. I've been in
Hmm.
Nashville before, so I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But and but so you didn't find like many gigs on Broadway itself, or like,
Well, it's tough because you're kind of like told that broad and this is going to sound like I'm throwing shade, and I promise I'm not. You're kind of told that Broadway is a little bit of a dead end. Like if you end up being that bar drummer, then you kind of get stuck in that rotation, and it's hard for you to expand out of that. But then people also say that you have to do that because that is where, freaking Luke Bryan will be having a drink and he'll hear you and ask you to come out with him. So it's like you just do this like circuit forever and ever and ever until you get this one opportunity that might come eventually, but also might never come. And that is exhausting and discouraging. And huge shout out to anyone who's out there doing that because it takes a lot to
mm,
do that every night after work to get in your car, come home from work, change into your cool cowboy clothes and go back out into the city and like try to meet people and just play with the hope that this one thing will happen eventually. So
oh
yeah.
man, yeah, I can imagine a year doing that must feel like a lifetime already. And as you say, just it must be mentally draining to, if you're not lucky and one of these people, one in a million that just land some some gig like, I don't know, like Luke Combs or whatever, then
Yeah.
obviously
But people
yeah.
do it. People do, like I mean several friends who one of them now plays guitar for Morgan Wallen, and
Wow.
he did exactly the same thing that I did. I don't know any specifics of his story, we're friends, but we're not like ultra close. So, but I mean, yeah, he did exactly what I did, and yeah, flash forward a few years, and now he's playing these huge stadiums and has a great living, and it's crazy. It does happen. It's just it's tough.
Yeah, I've heard that Nashville's a 10-year town.
Okay,
And so yeah, as you say, I mean, mad respect to anybody who's
right.
who's doing the thing. But I think you hear about more people moving away from Nashville, um, because as you say, you go there with kind of the hopes and dreams of making it, so to speak, right?
Yeah,
But then there's yeah, thousands and thousands of people. I mean, there's that famous joke. You go to a coffee shop and your barista is a better guitar player than you,
Yeah. Yes. Literally. Yeah.
and
You are a,
it's
what is it? A small fish in a gigantic pond when you are
yeah,
in Nashville. Yeah.
for sure, man, for sure. And so the social media growth, I guess that only started happening when you got home from Nashville, right?
That happened, I guess. So I got home from Nashville, what, 2016, 2017, 2018. Um, and it happened like 2 months ago. So this is
Oh
like
wow, okay,
5 years after. So this is like not related at all. And
yeah,
honestly, that leads to like another good point of like, if you want to move to Nashville to be a part of that, don't be discouraged. Like, go for it. You absolutely should. But now, because of what goes on social media, you also have an opportunity to get yourself out there from where you are, from what you have now. You're able to just get yourself out there without actually like physically having to be in like a music town, which is, you know, a very new thing. Social media is very cool for that.
yeah, for sure, yeah. And because obviously you've got some crazy chops going on, man. Like
Thanks.
it's killer. But have would you say your chops have come from actively practicing, like chop sticking, so to speak, or is that
Yeah,
just something that over the years naturally kind of came to you? I know church players are known for just kind of naturally having chops, and
yeah,
is that something you like actively practiced, or is it kind of a combination of practice and just playing and
yeah. So I have been lucky because of drumline. Um, the like very technical rudiments side of things, like the ultra fast paradiddles and paradiddles and rolls and all of those different things, the singles came from drumline, and I still, it's like I never marched like drum corps or anything like that. Like after high school, drumline was over for me, but I still have, practice pads stashed around the apartment and marching sticks around the apartment. So like while I'm working, if I'm in a meeting and it's not boring, if I'm in a meeting and it's boring, I'll just like pick up the pad and like practice, like not super intentionally, but I'll, remember a lick from high school, or, I'll have heard on Instagram a video of a drum corps drum line playing, and I'll see if I can like put it together real quick while I'm just like sitting on the couch. So I think that people underestimate the growth that just practicing on a pad has, because it builds your hand strength, which translates over to a drum kit. Like, practice pads have great rebound, but if you crank your snare up and, tune your toms up a little bit, they have great rebound as well. So those paradiddles that you're practicing on the pad, on all you have to do now is like move them around the kit. Um, I will say church drummers are definitely known for a lot of like the gospel chops. The church that I'm at, we do a lot of not that style of music. It's very low, like punchy snares and big toms and big washy cymbals, like that kind of sound. So I don't really get to do a lot of the more technical stuff when I'm playing at church. But yeah, I don't know if that answers your question. It's
no,
just
it
it's
does for
just
sure.
a lot of pad work for sure. Um, and then watching guys and just listening to them like Eric Moore or Aaron Spears or Sean Wright or Devin Taylor, like all of those guys, just listening to those things and then internalizing something that you heard from them. And then when you do have a minute to sit down at the kit, just like playing it over in your head and seeing like, am I able to play this physically? If not, let me slow it down and then build it up to the speed that they play it. So
Right.
yeah, a lot of listening as well for sure.
Okay. And what resources have you used in the past to let's talk about practice pad. What resources have you used to work on the pad, or what would you recommend?
So there are now, I mean, we're talking a lot about social media. There are now a lot of creators So I don't do a lot on like TikTok or anything like that. I'm just active on Instagram. I don't have time for all of these apps. But on Instagram specifically, there are a lot of creators who do like drum corps, drumline videos where they will play along with what the drumline is playing, but they also include a transcription. Like at the bottom of their video, there will be a transcription of what they're playing. Um, so, you can save those videos and slow them down, and, you're playing along with a drum corps like that. It's as simple as that. And then you work up the speed. So, um, I think, yeah, playing along with things that you hear has been a big thing for me. So like I'll have, my computer is work, and then on the TV behind my computer is the Cavaliers drum corps drum break from 2008, and I'm just like got the pad and I'm just like trying to play, I'll play the video for 5 seconds and then pause it and then see if I can replicate what they played, even if it's a lot slower. So yeah, I think listening um and trying to replicate makes a huge difference on a pad and will help with your hands and getting faster.
What about the kit? How do you go about structuring your practice time there? Are you somebody who uses like a practice log, or are you more kind of you're going to take one pattern and just slow it down, or how do you go about practice?
I it's definitely, and this is might not be a good thing. I definitely don't have a practice log. It's not overly structured. I think warm up is super important. So when I sit down, the first thing I do is put my ears in and I just like play for a few minutes, like whatever song I've been listening to recently, like comes to mind. I'll just play that. Just literally just play around for a few minutes, and then what I do a lot of times that has helped with my drumming vocabulary, if you want to use that kind of language, I will put on my playlist. So I have like a hip hop playlist on my Spotify and I have a metal playlist on my Spotify. One of the two, I'll just put on my playlist, press play, it's on shuffle or whatever. So I never know what song is coming next. And I'll just play for 45 seconds to a minute of each song. And then I'll skip to the next one and play 45 seconds to a minute of that song. And because, my playlist is so chaotic and all over the place with so many different styles, whether I realize it or not, I'm actually practicing a bunch of different things by playing with different styles of music for short bursts at a time. And I think that has helped with, like I said, my drumming vocabulary and my stamina a little bit as well, because, some of these songs are really fast. Some of them are metal songs and they have the double kick. Some of them are hip hop tunes that require a lot of gospel chops, or, some require you to just sit super deep in the pocket and not play any fills at all. And so you're practicing all of those things, whether you realize it or not. So that's kind of the majority of my practice time. Yeah.
I suppose that does wonders for your creativity as well.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, because you're I suppose just instinctively coming up with parts, or
Right.
trying to emulate different parts of all these different songs.
Yeah.
And yeah, no, I mean that's an awesome way of going about it, because I feel like everybody has like their own approach. That's why
Hmm.
in most podcasts I've asked people how they structure practice, because I find it really interesting how everybody has maybe a slightly different approach. And I feel like I myself, in the last couple of weeks recording these episodes, I've learned a lot about kind of working on being more sort of bringing out my inner creativity more,
Yeah.
because I feel like it's easy also with social media and things like that. It is easy to feel like, oh, I need to practice chops, or I need to
Right.
get technically better. But then sometimes you got to stop yourself. At least, as I say, for me personally, I feel like I need to stop myself and say, actually, sometimes like it's okay to just play, and to
Yeah.
or to put on different music, press shuffle on Spotify or Apple Music or whatever, and just try to emulate parts and see what comes out. And then maybe if something cool comes out, you maybe go back and you start repeating that, and
Yes.
being
Yeah.
like, oh, okay, this is a cool sticking that I've just randomly come up with. Let me
Hmm.
see, let me see where I can go with this. Let me see how I can orchestrate this a little bit more. And and unleash that inner creativity.
Yeah. I think there is enormous value in drum like lessons, like what Drumeo does, for just for example, because they're so well known, is phenomenal with the transcriptions and with all of the different practice methods that they give out. I mean, just becoming a better musician it requires a lot of those like normal drum lessons. But I will also say there is, like you said, an enormous importance on like developing your own creativity and your own sound. It's really easy to emulate what other people do. Well, I mean, it's not always easy to emulate what other people do, but everybody is capable eventually of hearing a lick and then replicating it to a T. Um, but when you start to develop that creativity by listening and just playing is when you really start to develop your own sound. And I think bands think that's really cool. Um, they'll ask you to go out with them or go into the studio because they like the way that you sound. Like,
Mm.
you take their song and you play it in a different way than their drummer played it. And when it's time for them to part ways with that drummer, if they've heard you play it, which doesn't always happen, but if they've heard your interpretation of their song, they may very well be like, "We love your creativity, so like hop on a new song with us," or whatever, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean that's what sets the drum heroes, anyone's you want to name, whether it be, Ringo Starr, Stuart Copeland, Dennis Chambers, like
Hmm.
any style you name, like the heroes, it's like they've all found their own identity,
Yes.
and there's obviously a reason for that. It's, I mean, Ringo, I doubt he ever sat down and like, practiced a paradiddle and,
Yeah.
six stroke roll, and did Wilcoxon snare solos. Like he was
Uh-huh.
he was an uber technical, right? But he he obviously learned playing drums by playing songs and by coming up with like the most genius, sometimes
Yeah.
even the most minimalistic thing. But for the song, it just sits so right. And when you try to replicate that, it's it's almost impossible to like really
Yeah.
nail it, like like All My Lovin', or
Hmm.
parts like that where it's like super simple, but it's just so brilliant how like it's like try play that without playing an extra ghost note, or
Right.
without playing a fill on the toms, or just really sit back for 3-4 minutes, however long the song is, and just play that simple, and have obviously I'm just going into Ringo in detail, but like,
Yeah.
yeah, what I'm trying to say is the drum heroes, any ones that come to mind, are the ones that have set themselves apart creatively, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I like, just another example. There was a few months ago a video of Dave Grohl playing "Smells Like Teen Spirit" on his kit with his like gigantic rack tom and gigantic floor tom. You know how he does. Um, and one of the things I noticed, so it's hard for me to like put this into words. When he's playing like the intro of the song and he does those huge like two-handed cymbal hits on the one, he's like almost playing them so far back on the beat that it's like almost out of time, but it's perfect. And it's like that is like just one of those kind of creativity with style and with feel. That's one of those things, like you're saying, that is hard to emulate. That's what makes these guys so great, is they've created this feel that like they have, and when you hear their drumming, you know that that's them and that they created that. So yeah, the technical part of it is important, but the creativity part and the style and the feel is also something that definitely should be practiced, because that's how you make everything your own, like you said. Yeah.
For sure, man. It's drum. You want to come up ideally with drum parts, like you mentioned, Dave Grohl, that you can sing the drum part.
Yeah.
It's like a second vocal, just like the drum part for "Smells Like Teen Spirit." That drum pickup, right, and then that
Yeah.
groove.
Yeah.
It's yeah, it's brilliant, man, and it's musical.
Right.
Yeah, and because you said you started playing piano as a kid, and I know you bought a guitar at some point. I saw on your Instagram.
Yep.
Do you still play guitar and piano and other
No,
instruments?
honestly, I don't. Um, no, I don't.
Oh, okay.
I didn't really keep up with either of those things. I think piano led helped me be able to read music, which helped me in drumline in high school. But yeah, drums has kind of taken. I had a guitar for a little while, just for fun. Like it was never really something that I was like ultra interested in. Drums have kind
Okay.
of have been the main thing for me.
Right. And is there something that you're not good at that you would like to, sort of untapped realms that you would like to go to, whether that be drumming or anything else?
Yeah, oh, for sure, especially within the world of drumming. I am not good with a double bass pedal. My left foot is extremely weak. So that's like something in 2024 that I really want to work on. Um, I would say outside of just drum technical stuff, I also would really like to be able to use DAWs like Ableton or Logic or even like video editing software. So right now, I mean, everything I do is on my phone. So I'm not like using any, of the softwares that like professional level people use. It would be really cool to learn how to do all of those things. So like I said, I would love to have an interface so that I could use microphones so that I could learn how to mix drums. I think making myself a little bit more well-rounded. Like it's one thing to just be able to sit down and just like shred the drums. Like I think it's important to be well-rounded in your abilities. That makes you more desirable to artists and to people who need a drummer for their song. So I definitely would like to get more well-rounded on the kind of production side of things.
Right. Because you said you use exclusively the EAD 10. Is that right?
Yeah, either that or my camera microphone, which again, I'm just
Okay.
using my iPhone camera.
How do you find the EAD 10?
It's great. It's weird. I get a lot of DMs of people having issues with it, and honestly, I've had like some technical issues. Like my phone, the app that comes with it doesn't always pick up the device or whatever, which is super annoying. I just have to like restart my phone. But people ask me a lot of questions about like what settings I use because they're having trouble with the sound. I have not had those issues really. Everything always sounds good to me. There's a lot of different, like they're called scenes on the thing. There's a lot of different scenes. You can mess with the reverb, you can mess with the attack and the decay and like all of those different things. That like because it sits on your bass drum, it can also be used as a trigger. So I'm able to like use a really big, like punchy kick sound. So I mean, I haven't really had any problems with it, but
Hmm.
I know that other people have had issues. So yeah, it works great for me.
Okay, because I saw a video of Estepario the other day
Uh-huh.
talking about. I think this was from like 3 years ago or whatever, but he was talking about the 8010, and he reckoned after 3 years of using it that it only really had kind of one configuration, if you will, that actually sounded good for recording. Have you found, sort of multiple configurations, or do you find it's obviously for practice and stuff? It has some cool sounds
Right.
from what it
Yeah.
seems like. But have you found that it's quite limited for like recording? There's only really one or two good settings which you can use for
Yeah.
recording.
So I would definitely say he's right. And again, not no shade because it has like enabled me to post all these videos. I would never, ever, ever like tell someone, yeah, I'll record drums for your song and then record them with the E8010. I would never, ever do that. It is not like a valid studio recording device. It is great for shooting, point and shoot, quick Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, whatever you want to do for that, but it's definitely not a valid like recording device. No, there's like one, two, maybe three scenes that I would even use for my videos. It's fun with all the other sounds that you can do, like the delays and all that stuff for practicing and the creativity piece that we talked about a little bit. But no, I would never record a song on that.
Yeah, I could imagine, man, because it sounds from what I've heard from sort of most of the people that record on an EAD 10,
Mhm.
it's almost like it's a very recognizable sound, right?
It
It's like a
is,
very a
yeah.
very compressed sound that, yeah, you can kind of tell it's the AD. Because I watched, obviously to prepare for this, I watched a lot of your videos on Instagram, and because I noticed that you had the mics on the drum set,
Mhm.
that you said that was just to mic it up for like the live setting,
For
right?
church, yeah.
Oh, okay, okay.
So
Um,
that's why I keep referencing the interface. I would like to get my own XLR cables, get my own interface back there, and then just plug in my own cables to those mics and record with
okay.
them. Because I don't know, I mean, I don't know how, and again, this is what I said I would like to get better at. I don't know if I can record like a board mix. Someone the other day told me that I should try an iRig, which apparently like records, like, because we use in-ears at church, so I'm like hearing a mixed sound of the band, but apparently you can record what I'm hearing in my ears to my phone, so that would be cool to try.
Oh,
Um,
sweet.
but yeah, I wish I could use those mics. I wish I knew how to use those mics.
Yeah, I feel you, man. I'm also, when it comes to tech stuff, I'm not, very savvy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did some recordings a couple of years ago, and I just had a friend make me a template,
Hmm.
basically,
Yeah.
because somebody who knows what he's doing. So I feel you on that. But I guess it's like with anything, if you spend the time, the appropriate amount of time, then you develop that. And but yeah, I feel like nowadays, especially, it's important for musicians, and drummers. Obviously, drummers, we have it, I feel like, harder than other musicians, in that we have to mic up, a full drum set.
Yeah.
We need, you need overheads, you need
Hmm.
dynamic, you need all these different mics,
Right.
and sometimes multiple interfaces, and
Yeah.
to find a good mix and know what you're doing on the DAW. It's yeah, all on the surface seems very complex.
I was watching literally last night. I was watching a Thomas Lang video from like 2015. He was talking about how he mic'd his kit and he had like an internal and an external mic on all of his drums. And then he was talking about phase issues, and I was like, my guy, I have no idea what you're talking about. I would just be completely lost. But yeah, so it's a lot. It definitely takes a lot to do drums. Like I would require for my kit, if I wanted it to have all the mics, which obviously you don't need, I think I would require like 8 inputs or something, and those
Yeah,
interfaces are like expensive. So we'll
for
see.
sure, man, for sure. But so in the church, are you just gigging? Is it usually like with one band? Is there like one house band, or
Yeah, it's primarily, so we're all just volunteer. So we all attend the church, and we are all just people in the church who have volunteered a, a musical ability to kind of provide, the music before and after the service. So it's generally the same people. Mostly the vocalists are the ones who kind of swap out. But as far as musicians, yeah, it's the same, 4 or 5 of us each week.
oh, okay, sweet. And no, I'm drawing a blank. Give me a second.
Very good.
I can edit this out. So yeah. Um, I mean, we are coming to the end of this episode. So is there anything that you would like to plug or shout out? Something maybe you've got coming up, or yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't, because this is a hobby, honestly, the short answer is no. I don't, if you want to check out my Instagram or my YouTube, that's like totally fine. I think the one thing that I would say, um, just to kind of wrap things up, it's this whole social media thing is super cool and it's a lot of fun when people are like vibing with something that you're doing and enjoying something that you're creating. But it's really easy to start caring a lot about performance and just not as like a warning, but just kind of a disclaimer for, the guys out there who are super interested in building this giant following on social media. Like I said, it is a lot of fun, but it is very taxing. Um, Nothing in my real life has changed because of this. I think people think that like there's these endorsements and this, and with subscriptions, you make all this money and it just like snowballs into this amazing thing that changes your life. And I think that can happen. But all of that to say, if you don't have any followers on Instagram or on YouTube or whatever, get out there and post your videos and have fun. And if you're not as good as XYZ player, it doesn't matter. Just like do your thing and have fun. Share it with people if you want to or don't. Um, this is all just for fun. Like people just need to realize it's all just for fun. So definitely a word is just to enjoy yourselves. Everybody just enjoy yourself.
Great sentiment, man. And yeah, thank you for taking the time, dude. I appreciate you coming on the podcast.
Of course. I really appreciate you having me. This was a lot of fun.
For sure, man.
Give me money.